Hey guys, this is Paul again. Thanks for joining us for our Flavor Vapor podcast. Today we're going to go over doing your RDAs. Okay, that's rebuildable drip atomizers. We're going to go over we're going to go over Kanthal and silica wraps, and then we're going to go over Kanthal and cotton wraps. Okay, that's standard coils and then micro coils. Micro coils we're going to use the cotton on. Standard coils we're just going to use Kanthal and silica. Okay. So the biggest difference between the two is with our standard wraps, we're actually going to wrap the Kanthal around the actual silica. Okay? Let me zoom in here for you guys. All right. Now what I have is our Kanthal, and then 3mm silica, and 28 gauge Kanthal. Now what I'm going to do is start out with it just like so. And I'm going to wrap it. And I usually go counterclockwise, and I'm going to make sure that I've got plenty of leeway on either side. So I'm going to wrap it around. And what I'm going to use is a 5-6 wrap. Okay, so I'm going to have 5 wraps on one side and then 6 on the other. And remember, we want these as even as we can possibly get them. Okay, now you can see my wrap here, and you can see how I've got quite a bit of a gap in between one of these. Okay, I really need to close that gap right there. So I'm going to kind of pull it off to the side. Okay, so now I've got it much closer right here. Now, what we're going to be inserting this into is an iGo S, which you can find at our Flavor Vapor website, theflavorvapor.com. And what I've got is a really basic RDA. Okay, I've got a positive post in the center, right here, and I've got a negative post on the outside, right here. So what I'm going to do is set that aside. Take and unscrew these. What that's going to do is open up these holes right here to where I can slip that Kanthal right in. Okay, now it really does not matter which way you slip this Kanthal in. You can go in this way, you can go in this way. You really don't want to go in this way though, okay? You want your larger part, or the longer side of the silica, to be on the side that doesn't have your negative post, okay? So we're going to go in this way. I'm going to stick that Kanthal in through these holes right here. It's really simple. It's just going to slide right in. Cool. You're going to pull it in, give it a nice little gap, probably about 1/8 of an inch, just like so. Then we're just going to tighten this down. Okay, so that's what we're looking at now. All right, now I'm going to add it to my tank or my mod. I'm going to check for resistance. See what I got. I'm getting a 0.9. That's a sub-ohm resistance. That is bad. That is not what we want. The only way you ever want to use a sub-ohm is if you're using a mechanical mod. So let's get these coils separated. Okay, now I'm getting a 2.6 ohm reading. That's good. Cool. So I've got the resistance that I want. Now, all I got to do is sniff up all my excess. So with these right here, first off, I can see that these posts aren't tight enough. So make sure these are nice and tight. And I'm getting sub-ohms again. Okay, 2.8, that's good. So I'll take these wires, point them straight up. Okay, trimmed it even. Now we're going to trim this side. Now on the longer side, I'm going to leave a little excess because I'm going to try and I'm going to kind of wrap it around my positive and negative post just to give it more wicking material. Okay, then it's going to wrap around just like so when I go to put my cap on. Okay, now really the only thing to do is add juice and let her vape. With RDAs, basically the idea behind them is if you don't really want to hold a big tank, haul it around all day, you're sitting at your desk or something like that, using one of these RDAs is really a lot better because what you can do is for one, it's really easy to change your wicks on. You can just slip them in and out of your positive negative connection and you're done. And if you got to just keep a bottle of juice on you, drip onto there. The flavor is immaculate, way better than just your standard wicks inside of a reservoir tank. It's really it's a simple setup, really lightweight, and it'll go really well on just a standard Ego flavor vapor battery. So that's one of the biggest benefits to using a IGO-S drip eddy. So now we're going to go over your microcoils. Microcoils are a little different than standard coils. With the microcoil, what I'm gonna wrap it around is something 1/16 of an inch or smaller. Okay, this toothpick right here should work just fine for what we're using it for today. Now I'm gonna take my Kanthal. Here I've got it. Now, with a microcoil, instead of trying to give it even spacing, what I'm going to do is try and make it touch. Okay, I want these coils as close as I can possibly get them to each other. So, start this down there. You want this as tight as you can get it. Now it's probably not going to be completely tight at first. It's probably going to be a little springy. So lift off to the side, spread out a little bit, but we're gonna change that. So I'm looking for about 10 reps. That's what I like to do. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now that I'm losing leeway on this side, I'm going to continue on the other side. 9, and 10. So now I've got 10 reps. Now you can see how, like I said, it's not completely spaced out. It's not completely touching. Got a little gap in there. Okay, not a big deal. What we're going to do now, so I'm going to take it, insert it into my iGoS, put it right about there. Okay. Now I want this pretty level. So now I'm going to tighten these down. Now with a microcoil, I really prefer to use a 30 gauge Canthal, but 28 is what I brought with me today, so it is doable with that. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is pull this toothpick out. Hopefully without getting any splinters. Maybe a toothpick was the wrong thing to use. There we go. Okay.
I just said, all right, got the toothpick out.
All right, we got the toothpick out. So now you're just seeing the coil here. Okay. Still gapped up in there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to set my mod to volts, and I'm going to turn it way down. I'm looking at 3 volts. You want to set it at 3 volts to do this, okay? As little power as you can possibly get. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat this coil up, okay? I'm going to heat it up to where it's completely glowing, and then when I hit my 10-second cutoff on my mod, I'm going to clamp it, okay? I'm going to clamp it until it's completely cool, and I'm going to do this a few times. So okay, that was the first time. It looks like my positive and negative connection have loosened up a bit, so I need to tighten these back down. Don't be afraid to clamp these down as long as you can, until you're completely confident that it's cool. Okay, so now you can see that it's not separating every time now. But I'm going to keep doing it a couple more times. You want to see it to where there's an even glow throughout the entire coil. See, now I'm getting a 1.5 ohm resistance. Still pushing that 3 volts. And it looks pretty good. Okay, so now with your microcoils, what you can use is you can use a cotton wicking material. And the great thing about that is after your cotton burns up, which it will burn up probably faster than your silica, all you do is you snip off one end, pull it out, and then you roll up another piece of cotton and stick it right back through your microcoil. So you can probably get, 5 or 6 wicks, good 3 or 4 day wicks out of one wrap. So you wrap it once, you get a good month's worth of vaping. So what you're gonna do is pull off a nice little strip, and this cotton is really cheap. You can get it at CVS, a box that'll last you about 2 years for $5. It's real cheap. So what I'm going to do is take and roll it up. You want to get it as small as you can, this whole roll. Get it very tight. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at now. Really skinny. So now I'm going to take, first off, I'm going to pull off this little excess right here. There we go. So now I'm going to take and put it right through this coil. There we go. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I got. And looks real good. So what I'm going to do is take and point these up. Snip off your positive and negative wires. What I'm going to do is take, and I want as much cotton wicking material as I can in this entire wrap. So wrap this little guy right around here, and I want them to kind of hold themselves in. So wrap that around there, and then wrap this one. And this right here is all preference. If you don't want to be wrapping this all up like this, you really don't have to. You're getting the vape you want, regardless of how much wicking you have in here. I just don't like to drip quite as often as most people do. So the more cotton I have in here, the better it's going to soak it up, and the less I have to drip. So I've kind of got it up in here like this. So now what I'm going to do is cut off all my excess cotton, and we're good to drip. Okay, so you can see how it's really soaking up. And this cotton it's really gonna shrink as you soak it up in there. And then take and put this guy over here. Again, air hole in front of your coil. That air hole has to be right next to that coil for the air to hit that heat and really heat up and give you the nice vape you're looking for. Now let's see how she vapes. I'm going to bump my voltage up to, if I can see it, probably about 3.7, right around in there. Good vape, good vape. Well, that's how you're going to build your standard coils and microcoils on an RDA. Thanks for watching the Flavor Vapor Podcast, and again, happy vaping.
theflavorvapor.com, and like usual, happy vaping.